In this video, I will be tackling and completing the entirety of Empire of Cats. So this video will contain Empire of Cats Chapter 2 Moon and Empire of Cats Chapter 3 Moon, which is a very infamous level. Some clips in this video may be sped up due to the fact that I cannot add that much interesting commentary into them when they're at normal speed, and it would just be me rambling to a certain extent, and that's not really fun to listen to. Now let's start with the sort of guide part. Alright, so this level is actually pretty simple. It should not be hard if you have at least, I'd say, half the treasures, and if you have all of them, even better. As for what I actually do to complete this level, first off, the start off. I start by spawning some UFOs to clear the peons because he is my cheapest area attacker that isn't a meat shield. We want to use him here mostly due to the fact that we don't want to be losing ground. Ground is very important in this level, and it is inevitable that you will lose some of it to the red rhino. Now, as you just saw, I didn't actually lose that much ground at all to the red rhino, but keep in mind, this clip that you see right now is where I have all of the treasures that I can get so far. So this level is ludicrously easy. Like I said, you don't even need to get all the treasures to this point. That really only applies with Empire of Cats Chapter 3 Moon. As for actually handling the rhino, I'd say the best strategy is probably either dragons as usual or whales, because he's strong against red enemies and he can shred them. And Brave Cat's also a pretty good option for the rhinos as well, because he does lots of damage to them with him having the strong against red's ability. Another thing that's very important to note is the cat cannon usage. As you just saw, I use my cat cannon to interrupt the boss's attack, and every time you hit him when he's about to attack, it actually resets his attack. This in turn allows your cats to get a lot more damage dealt on him, especially when you have a huge stack, and you really don't want to lose that huge stack to his attack. And that's pretty much it. Keep in mind that Whale and Titan are extremely good options for taking out the boss's attacks, because they don't die in one hit like most of your units. As you can see, now that we've completed Empire of Cats Chapter 2, we've unlocked a lot of important stuff, such as being able to upgrade our units and utilities to level 20, which is double their levels from before. And as you can see, we've also unlocked a new unit, much like Chapter 1, and that unit is Valkyrie Cat. She will actually prove to be very useful for a lot of the game for us, and especially for the next chapter. However, if we were doing Gacha, then she would not be that useful. Now, for the newbies to Battle Cats, and even for some of the veterans, you might be wondering, how is she useful in the future? Well, that's because her true form actually grants her a chance to freeze any enemy, except metal, I believe. Now, it's not that reliable of a freeze chance, however, it will come in clutch in some stages. I hope. Right now, we only have one unit that does freeze, and that unit will actually be really useful later, and that is Flower Cat. But for now, he's really not all that useful. The point that I'm trying to make here is that it's really hard sometimes to find non-gacha units that actually have debuff abilities, such as slow or freeze and weaken, stuff like that. Abilities that really hinder an enemy's ability to progress in the battlefield, which is very key because it is very important that we don't lose ground in the battles. Oh, alright, I think that's enough tutorial talk for now. Now it's just time to have some peace and quiet and chill out. I honestly hate how much stuff I'm cutting out in my progression this early on in the game, but I just think it's so boring to see my progression step by step in EOC especially, because it's really just beginner stuff, and I assume that most people that are watching this video have already long ago completed EOC. I just want to say I'm sorry to you guys that these videos are not that exciting or interesting right now. I mean, I fully get it, but I promise you things will get better eventually. It's just that we're so early on in the game. It is so hard to make anything interesting right now. especially since the cats that we have right now, you know, they're cats that everyone has, like very early on in the game. For me, the main goal of this series is just to show the potential of non-gacha units, and so far, you know, it's like everyone knows what these cats are capable of. This isn't anything surprising, but eventually I want it to get surprising. I've already made out a list of sort of things that I plan on doing in chronological order, and I don't feel like it's necessary for me to broadcast them right now, considering we're still in EOC, but I feel like after we do the next step, then I feel like we can really start focusing on the things that I want to do. I'd say the next thing I want to do is definitely the Red Cyclone, right after we complete EOC. Right, that's it for now. And it's finally here. Empire of Cats Chapter 3 Moon. The infamous level that everyone knows about. Now, I know I was sort of foreshadowing this earlier, but it is almost completely necessary that you get all of the prior EOC treasures before even attempting to do this stage, especially if you're doing it no gacha. The reason why majority of people get stuck on this level are, 1, they don't know the basics of meat shielding, and 2, they haven't collected all the treasures. In this guide right here, yes, I have all of the treasures that I could get to this point. The only one I don't have is the max energy capacity one, but that's just simply because I haven't done the moon yet. And boosts are not required in this level. I don't have a single plus level on any of my utilities or cats, and that's because it simply isn't necessary. When you really try to break down this level, it is actually a very simple level with a very simple strategy, and that's simply Dragon Stack. So basically spam dragons. Spawn a dragon on the field whenever you can, and make sure of course that you do protect them, because with full treasures at level 20, dragon can survive a hit from the boss, that being Bun Bun. So it is crucial to make sure that your dragons are at near full health or at full health when you hit the base and the boss comes out, which shouldn't be hard as long as you're meat shielding properly. Now, another problem with this stage that I think sort of gets brushed over a little bit is actually the cat limit. This probably hasn't ever been a problem until this level, but it does become a problem here, simply because the level is so long, and because you're going to be killing all of the enemies super quickly, they're not really going to get a chance to attack your meat shields. And if you're spamming meat shields, a lot of them are going to just clump up in the back when they're on their way to the base, and the enemies obviously will be dead, or they just won't be able to hit them. Now, this can actually ruin a run very easily, because there is a swarm of mooths that do come out of the base right before Bun Bun comes out, and they destroy all of your meat shields. And sometimes it can be the case that Bun Bun comes out and you have no meat shields to protect your dragons, and they all just die. Now, before I forget, I just like to say that Valkyrie is a very good unit for this level and is one of your main attackers along with Dragon. Because of her range, she can outrange Bun Bun. And I'd probably say you should spawn her around the halfway mark of the field, because that's when you really start pushing. And it's usually ideal to spawn her at that point because you can usually get 2 of her on the field once the Bun Bun comes out. Anyways, back to the cat limit. There is a way to prevent this, and you will see me do it. There are times where I actually do leave gaps in my meat shielding. As you can see right now, I'm not spawning any, and that's because I'm letting the meat shields in front die, and then I start spamming meat shields again. And another way that I also further help this out is I spawn giraffes, so that when there is those gaps in the meat shielding that appear when there is no meat shielding coming to the front, there is a giraffe right there to tank some hits, and he will get right in there with his speed. Now, the very last thing that is important to note in this level is that although you will have lots of cash at the beginning of the level, that may not be the case later on. And so this level also teaches you an important thing about money management and how to not just spam everything, because that will not work later on in the game, even though it has been working for us right now in EOC up until this point. So, a good way to manage your money in this level is very simple. Always make sure that you have, I'd say, a few thousand, and pretty much only spawn your ranged attackers, like Dragon, Sexy Legs, and Valkyrie. Do not spawn any other units. They will drain your money, and they will probably instantly die from Bun Bun, because as you can see, he attacks very rapidly and does one-shot a lot of your units. If you manage your money properly, your ranged attackers will simply take out the enemies that do give you lots of money, such as the seals and the kangaroos, because they do spawn decently frequently. And this is the last important thing to note here. Your dragons will get hit, and your ranged attackers, they will eventually get hit. Bun Bun does attack very rapidly, so he will eventually push his way to your ranged attackers. The only thing you can do is just keep doing your thing, spawning meat shields, and respawning your ranged attackers. That is an inevitable thing. Bun Bun will kill your ranged attackers. There just simply isn't anything you can do about it. I actually forgot there is one more thing to note here, and it is very important, and it's about the meat shielding. As you can see, I only brought along the 2 basic meat shields with me. However, it is recommended by pretty much everyone playing this stage to bring 3. And you might be wondering, where would I get the 3rd meat shield? Well, there is a purchasable special cat known as Boogie Cat. And he is only 75 cents in, most of the game, but in this case he'd be 100. And he is, of course, very spammable, does, whatever amount of damage, and does act as an extra staller against Bun Bun, and will make it so that Bun Bun does not push as quickly. It's 90 cat food, which may seem like a lot, but it isn't really, considering that this stage does stump a lot of people. And if you are struggling and you're only using these 2 meat shields, I would recommend buying him. And he's also not only useful here, but in a lot of parts in the game, well, not a lot of parts, but a little bit after we complete EOC here, because we don't have any crazed meat shields yet, but we will eventually. And for now, we want to have 3 meat shields because there are a lot of rapidly attacking enemies like Bun Bun that need to be stalled properly, and 2 meat shields simply won't do the job. Now, this is just the cleanup part. It does take a little bit because the base does have nearly 1,000,000 HP, and you probably won't see a base of this much health for a while after this. So don't fret about this whole, it's going to take a long time for me to do every stage going forward because they'll have this much HP on the base. Honestly, it's not that bad. And finally, the end of the pain of treasure grinding in EOC. We're not going to watch this. And we unlocked some important stuff. We acquired a very, very powerful unit in the early game, but not just the early game, even the mid and late game. Throughout the entire game, a very powerful unit, and that is Bahamut Cat. In his first 2 forms, Bahamut is a slow nuker that sits at a range, and he does a lot of damage. And in his 3rd form, which we are far from getting right now, in his 3rd form, he is a rapidly attacking, fast unit. He's one of the best free units in the entire game, and we unlock him so early on. He's going to be very crucial to help us defeating a lot of crazy stages. The other thing we unlocked is Cat Fruit, which is used to get certain units to their true forms, but that won't really be useful for us right now. Now time for Red Cyclone Cancer.